Hello everyone, welcome back to the podcast. Today I am talking all about the mitochondria with you, and this is something that I haven't done a deep dive into in an episode, but I am constantly working on mitochondrial health with my clients, and I'm sure over the years I've mentioned it here and there in podcast episodes or guests might have, but if you're not fully sure what mitochondria are, the benefits of them, what they do, things that impact them, nutrients they need to function, and how to optimize them as much as possible, then you are going to love today's episode. Mitochondrial dysfunction is a big spectrum, so there's varying levels of severity with this, but I would say it is going to play a part in most chronic health issues, whether that is infertility, hormone imbalance, fatigue, brain fog, premature aging, and then more serious diseases like cancer and neurodegenerative conditions. Therefore, when we support the mitochondrial health, it can improve a lot of symptoms and can lead to improved cognitive function, mental clarity, better focus, better hormone health, sustained physical energy. Who doesn't want all of those things? So I have been working on this with clients. If you're listening, whether I mention it or not, this is something that I do, but I know a lot of clients just want the recommendation, they don't want the science. I was always the one who was like, tell me exactly what this is doing. So just know if we are working on mineral balancing or avoiding toxins, if we are boosting your nutrient levels and your metabolism, this is all going to affect the mitochondria and vice versa, because the whole body is interconnected and we can't just improve one thing and not the other. The body is one whole system. Who would have thought? So what exactly are the mitochondria? I think we should start here. These are the energy powerhouses of the cells. If you think back to science class at school, biology, it is one of several organelles found in all cells, apart from the exception is the red blood cells. And as a general overview, their job is to turn food into energy that we use to do all of the jobs that we need. And that's a lot of jobs day to day. And the analogy that I give to clients is, imagine a factory. So these little factory inside every single cells, we have probably trillions, millions, billions, or trillions. I don't know the exact number. Maybe I should have looked at that before, but just know we have a lot. And even in something like a heart cell, I think it's around 5,000 mitochondria. So if that puts it into perspective, just one heart cell, that's crazy. And imagine this factory analogy, where the factory's job is to produce energy. And in the human body, the currency is ATP, like we use the currency of money or British pounds. If you're in the UK, the body uses ATP, which is adenosine triphosphate. So it's an adenosine molecule with 3 phosphate molecules on there. So the two problems that can happen, it can be one, the other, or both. Usually I find it's a little bit of both, is that in this factory, either the factory doesn't have what it needs to do the job. So this is a shortage of supplies, a shortage of workers, something's going on with the machinery, they don't have the special tool that they need for it to run smoothly. So that is similar to the body lacking the nutrients and the basic building blocks that the mitochondria need to function. So they're not going to be able to do their job if they don't have the resources to do so. The other issue that can happen alongside or instead is that there's actually something blocking the factory or the machinery or the equipment from working properly. So I imagine it as like being a spanner in the works. Something is blocking the conveyor belt, interfering with the machinery somehow. And these are things like toxins, trauma, heavy metals, mold, pesticides, glyphosate. So you can see why it's common to have a little bit of both. A lot of people are nutrient deficient. Maybe you're getting enough in, but not absorbing it. So that could be one way that you're lacking nutrition, even if you're eating and supplementing well. And it could also be because of poor soil quality, high stress. So intaking it through your diet is one, and people can be eating a lot of food, but very minimal nutrition these days. But then the other thing that I do see with clients is that they're eating really well, they've been supplementing, maybe there's some issues with absorption, but there's actually something blocking the mitochondria. And the main test that I use to look at mitochondria, symptoms can tell you a lot. So if you're struggling with any of those symptoms that I mentioned at the start, or if sometimes blood labs and other labs can give some signs here and there. So if we test your cortisol, for example, your stress hormone, your adrenal hormone, and it's really rock bottom, then that's probably going to go alongside and be as a result of mitochondrial dysfunction. Or if we have horrible brain fog, that's a symptom that's very classically linked to mitochondrial dysfunction and just low energy in general. And when I talk about energy, it's not just whether you're tired or not, because some clients, they're not coming to me complaining of fatigue, it's that they're complaining of weak digestion or thyroid issues, or they might be gaining weight, or they might have issues with the periods or the fertility. So cellular energy is needed to do literally everything. So regardless of if you're tired or not, we need cellular energy. We need a lot of good energy, a lot of clean energy to have a productive, happy brain, to ovulate, to produce progesterone, and therefore have good cycles and fertility, very protective just in general for women, to detoxify waste products from the body, digest food, everything. And the test that I was going to mention before is the organic acid urine test. I feel like this is the best one because there are some very specific signs on there for mitochondrial dysfunction. There's several sections actually, and which one is off, it could actually pinpoint a bit more specifically what the person needs. So it could indicate more of a B vitamin issue or an amino acid absorption or intake issue, or it could be that someone needs CoQ10. All of these things we're going to go into, by the way. So the mitochondria are involved in energy production, and that influences everything. But another big thing is that they're involved in regulating oxidative stress, cell death, and signaling pathways in the body. So this is all about keeping inflammation at bay, helping our body to repair and regenerate. And we are daily producing cancerous cells. We produce inflammation and these toxins as a natural byproduct of metabolism, but our body should be able to deal with them. And it's when they kind of overrun and we don't have enough protection or enough repair, that's when we can run into disease and develop conditions like cancer. A healthy, thriving body and strong immune system would keep those cancer cells at bay. And as mitochondria do produce this fuel, they also release reactive oxygen species. So this is the oxidative stress that you might have heard about, and the general term is inflammation. So imagine a factory again, it's the exact same. The factory can produce waste. And in order for our body to handle that waste, because we need to produce energy, but there's some like negative things that come from that, we need enough antioxidants in order to balance that out. Otherwise, they can damage our DNA, they can damage our proteins, they can mutate our cells. So with antioxidants, you might not be getting enough from your diet. So you need some things like vitamin A, E, C, and D from food, and you can also internally produce them. And the key antioxidants are things like glutathione, superoxide dismutase that you might have heard of. Another one is melatonin, which is specifically produced when we sleep, or it helps with sleep. It's a sleep hormone, but it's also really protective to the brain. I imagine antioxidants as like these little Pac-Men that go around the body and eating up any damaged cells, any debris, any inflammatory cells. So that's what we should be having, enough antioxidants to keep up with those reactive oxygen species, that inflammation that these little factories can make. But it can become a vicious cycle, because when the mitochondria work, they produce this waste as a byproduct, but you also are going to struggle with detoxing that if you have low cellular energy in the first place. So you need cellular energy to detox, absorb antioxidants from your food with good gut health. So that's why a lot of people can stay stuck with symptoms, this stubborn chronic fatigue. They just don't know how to get past this because it's just becoming a vicious cycle, and you need to intervene and get past that. So where are the mitochondria found? I would say, well, it's fact. The heart and muscle contain the most, but also sperm and egg cells contain a lot of mitochondria too. And as I said at the start, heart cells in particular, the heart muscle cells contain around 5,000 mitochondria per cell. And then think of how many cells it takes to make up the heart. And another Symptom that could be linked to mitochondrial dysfunction are palpitations or just poor circulation, because if the heart's not pumping properly, then that affects oxygenation of the body and can cause this irregular heartbeat. So if you have palpitations, it could be linked to your mitochondria. And the female egg is actually the largest cell in the human body and the richest in mitochondria. It is the energy powerhouse, again, of all cellular activities, and the egg is faced with many energy demanding activities, ensuring the correct amount of genetic material is passed on to the offspring. And really interesting fact that I learned a few years ago, but it's always stuck with me, is that your mitochondria are actually inherited specifically from your mother. So it's the mother's mitochondrial DNA that's passed down. Another reason why preconception work is so important, and I know a lot of it gets put on the women already because we're the ones who carry the baby, but it is important for mitochondria. So if you have struggled with chronic health issues and fertility issues, doing this work and getting help and optimizing things isn't just going to help yourself and your experience during pregnancy and any symptoms you're dealing with now, your longevity. It's also going to help your offspring, because in that moment of conception, that DNA is with that child for the rest of its life, and they can alter it. They can influence the expression of the genes through epigenetics, through how they're eating. So it's not that they're screwed forever if you've already had a child and you weren't in the best health. But for anyone who is yet to have kids and they want to, I would highly recommend working on improving your mitochondria. And that's just going to make you feel amazing in general, but it's also going to help your future offspring. So how exactly do we increase or improve mitochondrial function? Yes, you can actually increase the number and the function of the mitochondria. So it's not like you lose them or they disappear and get weak and can't repair. They definitely can. And these tips, as I go through, are basically just coming back to that factory analogy, making sure that they have the resources and the building blocks to make energy properly and have these factories run smoothly, but also removing the blockages. So starting off with the first one, which is one of the most talked about in the mainstream for a good reason, because it is so beneficial and so necessary. It is exercise. And this can actually increase the number of mitochondria, the function and the number of mitochondria. And it's strength training specifically that does this because of the stress, the good stress that it is putting on the muscles. Remember, the muscles are the most energy dense in terms of mitochondria. So it signals an energetic demand to the rest of the cell when these muscles are put under pressure. And as a response, they produce more mitochondria, more mitochondrial enzymes, and this increases the respiratory capacity of muscles. So that is their ability to produce ATP from nutrients to power these powerful contractions. So another reason to get into strength training, if you're not already, you can definitely balance it out, and it doesn't have to be this rigid thing that you hate and feel forced to do, but you'll find that once you're into it and you start to see the benefits, because really I had an epiphany last year with strength training because I had to do a lot of mindset work to feel motivated to go to the gym, which I did improve. But I just thought strength training is going to give me the physical appearance that I want, but also the health that I want, because it's so beneficial for metabolic health and glucose regulation and bone health, long-term aging. It's not majorly stressful on the adrenals like chronic cardio and marathon training and boot camps can be. So it's like, it's a win-win. And I'd say start where you're at. If you are in a place of chronic fatigue at the moment, then this is something to look forward to, something to build towards. You definitely don't want to push yourself too much, because then that's just going to overwhelm the body if your body can't deal with that reactive oxygen species that's produced with more demands on it. So start where you're at, but a nice place to get to is maybe 2 to 5 times a week. We don't want to overdo it either, because then that's getting into the same type of problem. Number 2 is light therapy. Sunlight being my favorite, the most natural, and top recommended, because we're not just getting vitamin D from that, although that's the big one. It is an antioxidant, helps with your mood, calcium regulation in the body. It's more of a hormone in the system, but the sunlight is also giving us different powerful compounds. It's helping to regulate our circadian rhythm, that melatonin production, another antioxidant. So following these circadian rhythms during the day and being mindful of our light exposure. So if we are under artificial lighting all day, behind a screen all day on our phones, then we want to try and minimize that when we finish work and in our free time, just getting outside in the evening, mimicking nature and sunset, getting off our phones, using dimmed lights, avoiding screens if we can, or using filters, blue light blocking glasses. And then other tools in the light therapy category would be near and far infrared saunas and photobiomodulation, which is red light therapy from some of these devices. All of my favorite devices when it comes to this category are from Boncharge, so you can use my code VIVA for 15% off. So I have the red light mini, I also have the LED face mask, and what else do I have? Yeah, they're the main things, but they also do saunas. I already had a sauna, otherwise I would have gone from them. I have the red lens glasses, so highly recommend. They are doing great things, and they are my favorite brand for all of that range of products. So the red and near infrared light from something like an infrared sauna can penetrate the skin and act on mitochondria through the stimulation of a molecule called cytochrome C oxidase. This molecule is part of the mitochondrial electron transport chain that produces ATP. So I'm not going to go into the great detail of what actually happens on this electron transport chain, because that was one of my least favorite things to learn about and memorize in college. But we're just going at it from like a wide lens view in this. The near and red infrared light enhance the efficiency of mitochondrial electron transport chain and energy production. And then another benefit of sauna is also the heat that it provides. So heat is another hormetic stress, similar to exercise, where it stresses the body a little bit, but it triggers cell responses that promote adaptation and growth and strengthening of the body. You're not going to get as hot and sweaty on an infrared sauna. Well, you can, the longer you stay on it. And you have to build up to that because it's a powerful detox. The light is literally penetrating the mitochondria and flushing out any toxins, but also healing it at the same time. I did a podcast episode with Mark Givert from not Boncharge, Get Fit, the company that I have my sauna from. And I'm going to link that in the show notes. It's from a while ago now, but that was a really good episode. And he talked all about the impact on the mitochondria and why it could be so beneficial for things like chronic pain and fatigue, brain fog, etc. This was one of the main things that I did for my mold detox, and I really put a lot of my improvements down to the impacts of light that I was using. I couldn't tolerate the hot, steamy, sweaty saunas because of my blood pressure and dizziness and symptoms like that. But these heat you from the inside out as well, and also have all of these benefits to mitochondria, whereas a regular steam sauna has the heat benefits, but not the light aspect. Number 3 are working on your mitochondrial nutrients. So these provide substrates and cofactors that support and or stimulate mitochondrial enzymes, and they enhance cellular antioxidant defenses, protecting the mitochondria from oxidation and inflammation, and they also protect and repair the mitochondrial membranes. So these are working in a few ways. And examples of some of the most well-known nutrients are coenzyme Q10, which is CoQ10, alpha-lipoic acid, ALA, acetyl L-carnitine, which is ALC. These are essential for the mitochondria to function and reduce this oxidative stress issue. And these are found in abundance in things like organ meats, fatty fish, nuts and seeds. Other nutrients are B vitamins, copper, iron, selenium, zinc, and creatine. A lot of those minerals, and this is why mineral balancing is important, and I consider it a foundation to health. That's why I have it just available, my course on my website, just for anyone to sign up to, because I think everyone could benefit from that. Whereas a stool test or a mitochondrial test, I would recommend working with a practitioner because it's starting to get a little bit more complex, whereas minerals are something that you can work on your own a lot of the time and start to see really good benefits. And I can't go without mentioning magnesium, which is the backbone for the ATP molecule. And that's why it's so involved in energy production. That's why it's a lot of people's favorite supplement. They see such improvements on a wide range of things. And you can see exactly what's going on with your magnesium and these important mitochondrial nutrients like zinc, selenium, iron, copper within my mineral balancing course, which is called I'm Balanced. Available on my website. You get a test within that. You can see exactly what's going on. You could do the test today or this week if you want to. And once you get your results back, I teach you how to interpret the results and balance your levels naturally. And then last nutrient is NAD+, which is nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide. You can see why they shorten it. But this was talked about a lot at the Health Optimization Summit that I went to in June. It's a molecule derived from vitamin B3, and it's found in every single cell of the body. NAD+ has a key role in mitochondrial function. It's the main molecule responsible for the delivery of electrons that are extracted from food into the electron transport chain for ATP production. Therefore, you can see how important it is for cells overall, the whole body, and it does decrease as we age, as does a lot of these other nutrients. CoQ10 is one, but it also can help on the flip side to decrease the aging process. We can boost our NAD levels by supplying ourselves with nutrients that can help them optimize the NAD metabolism, so some of those synergistic nutrients I mentioned before. And some companies use liposomal formulas. So speaking of supplements, all of these that I just mentioned you can supplement with. Even liposomal glutathione, it's one of the other supplements that I use for mold detox with the saunas that really made a big difference, but it's very powerful. And initially I had some bad reactions and just kind of powered through, but it's definitely not for everyone. I was struggling with an unknown sulfur sensitivity, but it was just detoxing my body so fast, my body couldn't keep up, and I definitely wasn't doing it in the right way that I would now on reflection. So whether it's NAD supplements or mineral supplements, once you know exactly what you need, or B vitamins, a lot of the high quality things like that are found in liposomal formulations now, so I am a fan, but that just makes it even more powerful. But this is bypassing the potential absorption issue that a lot of people face in the gut. And coming from food, we want to make sure that we're eating plenty of antioxidants. This is number 5, I think, on my list. And a higher protein diet is what I would recommend, because the animal protein specifically is going to contain a lot of these bioavailable nutrients. So not only are they in higher amounts, they're also more bioavailable, so the body can absorb and digest them better than plant-based foods. On paper, a plant-based food might have a lot of nutrients in there, but because it's bound to these anti-nutrients, lectins, phytates, by the time it's actually in the body, it's more difficult to digest versus some grass-fed beef. So it contains nutrients like zinc and copper that you need to produce superoxide dismutase. It contains the amino acids that we need to build our antioxidants like glutathione. But then not forgetting plant foods. They contain, when it's a colourful, diverse range of them, not just overcooked broccoli every day, these contain a range of different nutrients. And this is why we don't want to fear plants, and we don't want to be either or. We don't want to be all meat and carnivore diet, but we also don't want to be completely raw food vegan, because you're missing a lot of nutrients there. That's why the ideal combination of the two is the best, in my opinion. And the types of fats that we're eating is important to absorb those fat-soluble vitamins and antioxidants, vitamin A, D, E, and K. So just be mindful what fats and oils you're consuming. This is something else that can imagine it as the factory, literally the oil. If it's all rancid and not flowing smoothly to oil up the cogs and the machinery, then that's kind of like having sunflower oil, canola oil, rapeseed oil. We want to avoid them as much as possible, and instead have the nice and healthy, heat stable, less inflammatory fats like butter, coconut oil, tallow, extra virgin olive oil to cook and use on our meals. And with protein, I'd say even if you can't the grass-fed, organic, free range is better. It's not going to have more protein, but it's going to have more antioxidants and less of those toxins that can interfere with the mitochondria. So it is more supportive overall if budget allows you to spend your money in that way. But just do what you can. And I'd say even if all you can get right now is conventionally farmed meat, it is still better than none at all, which I know is controversial, but I stand by that. And then last few things for the mitochondria. Sleep is a huge one. What is sleep not good for, beneficial for? It's where we heal, repair, regenerate, including the mitochondria. We also get a big hit of melatonin, which is the sleep hormone antioxidant, helps to protect the brain. A lot of mitochondria are in the brain as well, just muscle cells in general. Next is to support your stress and work on any trauma, because this can cause mitochondrial dysfunction. The stress alone can particularly affect the nervous system, endocrine system, immune system, and then think of how they have a knock-on effect on everything else, the gut, the skin, brain, etc. So when we have repressed or suppressed trauma or just chronic ongoing stress, this can put a spanner in the works, and it also uses up a lot of nutrients. It affects sleep quality, so it does have a knock-on effect on a lot of these other factors that I've mentioned as well. So we want to process our emotions when we feel them. You can journal or just cry if you feel like you need to. You can do EFT tapping to help you through that, work with a therapist, releasing stored trauma through somatic modalities, supporting your emotional, energetic body by auditing on a regular basis who you're spending time with, your environment, what you're listening to, watching, reading, maybe having energy work done through Reiki. All of these things can just help to strengthen your body and your energetic field overall. Reducing toxin exposure is big, so this is one of the ones that we want to try and avoid as much as possible. We can't be perfect, but when we can, getting the organic produce or meat is going to be way better, because we're avoiding more of those pesticides that are mitochondrial dysfunction disruptors. They're hormone disruptors. They act like antibiotics in the gut. We want to try and invest in really good quality air filters. So my favorite brands are Amazing Air if you're in the UK or Europe, and then the sister brand to that is Air Doctor if you're in the US, Canada. Water filters, to just be mindful of things like mold in the environment, the heavy metals, which are also looked at within the Iron Balance course. So if you want to assess your heavy metal status, things like mercury exposure, arsenic, lead, cadmium are some of the top ones. It's going to look at all of those things plus the minerals. So again, recommend if you've never done a mineral test or you want to do a retest, you do get a test to use within 6 months. So if you've literally just done one, but you still want to get the course, you can use that test within the package to use a little bit later on once you've done a bit more work. The link will be in the show notes to sign up. We want to avoid unnecessary medications whenever possible. So we're not anti-medication here, but medications like proton pump inhibitors, stomach acid blockers, omeprazole, or just the over-the-counter ones like Gaviscon, birth control pills, antidepressants, they can all, most drugs deplete key nutrients that are needed for the mitochondria, so all of those lovely B vitamins and zinc and selenium. And then there are some medications that more affect the absorption if they're working on the gut directly. So this is things like antibiotics, non-steroidal anti-inflammatories, ibuprofen, etc. They can negatively impact your gut health and therefore the absorption. But there is also a gut mitochondrial axis. The body works in so many different ways. It's like a hypothalamic, pituitary, ovarian, thyroid, adrenal axis. So I wasn't surprised to learn about the microbiome mitochondrial axis. And the balance and health of the axis might contribute to the prevention or the development of disease. Mitochondria, through the production of ROS, the reactive oxygen species, are believed to have a crucial role in modulating gut functions, such as the intestinal barrier and mucosal immune responses, which is very interesting. So although we see these reactive oxygen species as a negative, the body doesn't make mistakes, and there's maybe some slight benefit of that in how it helps the microbiome, which is the rainforests of bacteria and yeast and parasites and fungus that lives within us. And then the last two things I'm not a huge fan of for women, especially if you're dealing with hormone issues, health issues, a lot of stress, which most women, honestly. But the first one is intermittent fasting / caloric restriction, which are not synonymous with each other. They can be very different. You can eat the same number of calories, but just in smaller feeding windows. That would be considered intermittent fasting. Or there's caloric restriction, where you're not fasting, you're eating throughout the day regularly, but just a lot less food. But people often combine them together and just get a big change to the diet and lifestyle. So caloric restriction acts as another hormetic stress, as does the fasting, which triggers a number of adaptations in the mitochondria. It can help with the activity of the electron transport chain, regulates the production of ROS, or oxidative stress. It can support the mitochondrial's quality, that helps to prevent and repair damage. It can promote the renewal of the mitochondrial network through the elimination of damaged mitochondria, which is autophagy, probably the top benefit that people use these tools for, and the production of new mitochondria, which is biogenesis. Not a fan personally, and for clients, I wouldn't recommend, but if you're a guy, if you're thriving with your health and you just want to try some new things and you want to see how you feel, bearing in mind the initial positive feelings that people get from this is an adrenaline response. So it feels good. If you've got digestive issues, you might feel better not eating, but the answer isn't to just never eat again, it's to fix the gut issues. So yeah, just do your own research and work with a practitioner who can tell you whether it's beneficial for you or not. And then final thing is cold therapy. I mentioned heat therapy before and how being in the sun or doing an infrared sauna or light therapy can be therapeutic, but so can cold. The act of shivering is helping our body to release heat in the process of burning fuels and using ATP to power muscle contraction. So it helps you to burn more calories, it helps your body to work a little bit harder. It's one of those hormetic stresses again, where in the moment it doesn't feel great, but it can help you to grow stronger. And therefore shivering, the act of shivering, recruits mitochondria that indirectly generate heat. So if you want to do some cold plunging once you're healthy, thriving, or even at certain times of the cycle, I'm all for going for a little wild swim in the cold every now and again, going in the sea in Cornwall on holiday. But if you are stuck in fight and flight mode, or you have a lot of anxiety or missing periods, a lot of stress in the body, thyroid issues, you might not do well with that until you're feeling a bit more balanced. So that is my list. I stopped tracking the numbers after a while, but there's a good few tips and mentions. And just bringing it back to that factory analogy, we just want to give the body what it needs, but you can see how it's so easy to be disrupted and how the mitochondria affect literally everything, because if we don't have cellular energy, we can't really do much. So I hope you enjoyed that episode. If you want me to do some more specifics on mitochondria or any of the subjects mentioned, I already have a ton on things like nutrition and chronic stress and trauma, sleep, mold exposure. But if there's any in particular that you want me to dive a little bit deeper into, please let me know. I'm always open to new suggestions and recommendations for episodes. I want to make what you're looking for. So enjoy the rest of your day, whatever you're up to, and I'll see you back here next week for the next episode. I really hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, I would love for you to leave me a rating and review on your podcast app, as this helps to support the show and it allows it to reach more people with this valuable information. Come and say hi over on Instagram. I'm at Viva Natural Health. And if you haven't already, check out my website, vivanaturalhealth.co.uk, for tons more free resources and to discover how I could support you further. I currently offer one-on-one consultation packages if you want my top level support, then more affordable group programs and self-paced online courses. So there really is something for everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you back here next week for another episode.